Hello, Warboomblers, and welcome to Total Carl Franz 3. Wait, what? Welcome to Total War Warhammer 3, where you can play as rats. Or dinosaurs. Or vampire zombie pirates. Or as regular humans. Anyway, Total War Warhammer 3, which I'm just gonna call Warhammer 3 cause every time I say Total War, I gotta pay 20 bucks in royalties. Warhammer 3 is what happens when you mix Civilization, Dawn of War, Warhammer Fantasy, and sprinkle in some DLC. Either way, the core gameplay is split into two different parts. The battles, and the city management! City management is quite simple, as it all depends on the level of your settlement. To upgrade that, you need to get growth and wait. Alright, while I wait, I might as well talk about the battles. The battles are the RTS part of the game, and they are where you get to use the units you recruit. There are 4 stages of the learning experience for battles. The baby stage, where you have no idea what any of this means. The what stage, where you kinda know what they mean. The Sun Tzu stage, where you know exactly what +5 melee attack means for a unit and know how to use them effectively. And the Sun Cheese stage, where you know the game so well you predict the AI and bully it. I'm at the what stage, but that won't stop me from trying to teach you the different unit types. The most basic of basic are infantry. 99% of the time, they stink real bad, both literally and metaphorically, with some red and angry exceptions. They are usually best at holding the line, so your ranged units can do real damage. Then you got your cavalry, which is perfect for quick attacks and taking down ranged units. This is the rock, paper, scissors of the game. But there's also 2 other options. Monsters, which other than look sick as hell, are usually pretty capable of dealing with most things. And magic. No, not the gathering type, the explosion type. Magic is extremely powerful if used properly, which is why you only have a limited amount of it with hefty cooldowns. Now that you are even more confused about the battles, let's talk about the game mode. What? Really? Let's talk about the game modes. We have campaign and multiplayer, which apparently lets you play PvP battles against real humans, supposedly. So let's talk about the only real game mode, Immortal and... Oh wow, there is another mode other than the tutorial. However, it's so unimportant and eclipsed by Immortal Empires that the new DLC lords don't even appear in it. But enough messing around. Immortal Empires is the main part of the game, where you get to play one of 100 legendary lords leading a nation of one of 24 factions/races. However, to access all of that, you will need the 2 previous games and 22 DLCs for a nice low sum of 490 bucks. Not on sale, but damn, I have some bad priorities. Fortunately, I am actually stupid, because I want access to everything even if I never end up playing it. So my average viewer with their 500 IQs will probably have a better time only buying DLCs for factions they like, which does make it a little bit better, but still, damn. But enough about the price. What is the campaign like? I have no idea. Every time I get to the screen, I sit with decision paralysis. So to help you join me, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about all the factions and the occasional legendary lord, cause some, mainly the DLC ones, have unique mechanics. I wanted to do all 100 legendary lords, but the intern that edits the videos wasn't keen on the idea. So let's start with the Beastmen, also known as Cowboys. They are the only true Horde faction, meaning that instead of having settlements with buildings, they have buildings on the armies themselves. Since they are a Horde faction, they don't actually take settlements. Well, kinda. They take settlements, but their only use is to block anyone from settling in the ruins. Their specialty is monsters and chariots, so just monsters, because come on. But next up are the French. Bretonia are the chivalry, honor, stinky Frenchmen faction, and they are exactly like you're picturing them. A place where the farmers pay 99% taxes and the nobility pay 1%, and where everyone is focused on being honorable. Their whole shtick is cavalry, so they have a lot of choices for it, and some of the best, but you gotta really ask yourself, do you like cavalry enough to play as the French? Now onto the Industrial Revolution faction. The Chaos Dwarves, which make use of, learning experience interns as a part of their main mechanic. And since they are a DLC faction, that mechanic is extremely complex. So to cut it short, you need to set up mines and factories to be able to use more of the good units. And because of this cost, the Chaos Dwarves have OP stuff in every category. The Chaos Dwarves lead nicely into the Dark... Oh, they aren't next? It's Daniel next? Daniel's quote-unquote faction is just Daniel, whose main mechanic, other than being bullied, is being able to play dress-up. This mechanic allows Daniel to be one of the strong... Oh, hold on. Sorry, I meant one of the weakest lords in the game. Daniel also doesn't really have any unique units. He just has all the units that Chaos has, which just leaves him to just kinda suck at life. Hopefully they will give him his glow up. Speaking of factions in need of glow up, the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves are the elves who never grew out of their rebellious phase, and their main mechanic is underpaid workers, similarly to the Chaos Dwarves. And that is about it. You can spend the workers for a bunch of things, but yeah, they kinda need that glow up. Now, in terms of battle, they have a bit of everything, but they are best with quick infantry and annoying missiles.
Leave me alone!
Akira!
Now, on to my favorite representation of dwarves in fantasy. Huh? What? Oh shit! All I did was eat the last cookie 800 years ago. These surely tall and epic guys are the pettiest people in the history of the universe, and by God they have a good memory. This reflects in their main mechanic, being grudges. The more a faction pisses you off, the more grudges they have, and by collecting enough of these, you can get heavily rewarded. Now, in battle, they have some of the tankiest infantry and some of the best artillery. However, due to their short legs and hefty nature, they are very slow, so they don't have any cavalry. Deserved! Oh hey, how convenient. Next up is Cathay, aka Fantasy China, where the rulers didn't make up the fact that they were dragons. Their main mechanics are harmony, which just means putting Ying staff with Yang, and the compass, where you select a buff. Two legendary lords have to keep at bay chaos attackers, even though there's already a bunch of threats that were not stopped by the very ineffective wall. In battle, they rely on range to carry because their infantry is only decent at holding. Now, next up, let's get this over with. The High Elves are exactly as stinky as you think, and I hate them. Their mechanic is all about court intrigue, and fortunately, they mainly stay on the stink donut. Now, in battle, they probably are the best faction to learn the game, because they have a little bit of everything. They are best with arrows, but they can do most things pretty well. Now next, we have the Fantasy Russians. Kislev's mechanic is having too many mechanics, meaning none is all too in-depth and interesting. In battle, their specialty is hybrid units, which I am too dumb to understand how to use fully. Next up, the Lizardmen, which aren't the cousins to the Beastmen, they're the dinosaurs which every fantasy world has. Their main mechanic is having the worst mechanic in the game. It's just a slight upgrade for numbers on something passive. Combine that with having the second most legendary lords, only 3 of which having any mechanic to make them stick out, and it's a real testament to how 7-year-old brained I am that I still love them. Their specialties are monsters and melee, really enabling that right-click gameplay. Next up, Fantasy Norwegians. The Norskins are basically just barbarians that pray to the Chaos Gods, which is one of their mechanics, along with monster hunts. No, not that kind. While they did get a spruce up for Warhammer 2, you can still tell that they were a pre-order bonus that didn't get all that much love. In battle, they focus on monsters, backed up by unwashed masses of cavemen. And if you love never showering, if you were born to shit and forced to wipe, Nurgle is the grandpa for you! The first of the Chaos Gods, that didn't get skipped for DLC talk, Nurgle is the god of pestilence, decay, and self-love, because he will love you no matter what as long as you spread plagues, which you can brew up in the faction mechanic. Being a walking public toilet, the plagues actually help you, but to anyone who happens to have a functioning immune system, they will hurt. In battle, Nurgle takes it slow, turning every battle into a war of attrition that can be sped up with monsters. Next up, the Skaven. What? Where are... Oh! The Skaven are another fantasy staple, human-sized rats with scarily advanced technology who are massive cowards and backstabbers. Their battle gameplay really depends on how you choose to play them. You could swarm the enemy with numbers, turn the game into World War I, or create abominations to eat your enemies. Next is the kit that gets picked last for gym class, Slanesh, which currently only has one lord. Slanesh is the god of excess, technically, but it's really the horny god. Like, geez dude, that has to be inconvenient. Their main mechanic is robbery. They steal units to use them against their enemies, and after the battle is over, they give them back and nobody remembers what they did. Their main thing is speed. They are very underdressed and don't work well long distance, but once you turn the battlefield into Burnout 3, they deal serious damage. What's next? Oh no, not again. Now onto the fan favorite, the Empire. The Empire are the human faction, but instead of being a kingdom or whatever, it's the fantasy Holy Roman Empire. Taking from the real thing the squabbling, the million factions, and the vampires, and adding engineering projects where clearly nobody told them no. Every lord has its own unique mechanic now, but the overall faction doesn't really have one. In battle, humans are squishy, so they use artillery and cavalry mainly. When said humans die, they die. And someone in the middle of a not desert once said, "That's cringe." Then boom, Curse of Ra. That's basically the backstory of the Tomb Kings, who now have to dig their empire out of the sand. They clearly lived in a utopia because they are the only faction to not pay taxes. However, they are limited on how many armies they can have, and it costs quite a bit to dig a giant sphinx out of the desert. In battle, you put enemies in the bone zone before charging from the rear. Or you can use these giant constructs if you don't want to get down and dirty. Next up is Siege, the chaos god of birds, magic, and being annoying. His whole mechanic is having a toolbox of things to annoy you. And in battle, you can really tell he is the lord of magic, as his wizards are some of the most powerful and back up an army composed mostly of ranged. Now, if you ever thought that being a pirate was just not cool enough, we have the Vampire Coast, which are undead vampire pirates. Their main mechanic is infamy gained by plundering, ransacking, and pillaging. In battle, they make full use of their second amendment. Their one thing is having a lot of guns and some monsters, but they usually also have guns. Then you take the Vampire Coast, remove the guns, the piracy, and being cool, and you get the vampire counts, which are in desperate need of some attention. Their mechanic is being able to summon old vampires to get buffs in battle. They mainly use monsters and heroes to deal actual damage, and the undead hordes to tank. Obviously, after the Forgotten Child, we have the favorite child, the Warriors of Chaos, which are the biggest faction, and they keep getting more and more units from the DLC, giving them the most amount of content by far. The mechanic of the Warriors of Chaos is souls, which they get by killing and are spent to make the Chaos Gods happy. There are 4 undivided Chaos Lords and 4 Monogod Lords that all also have access to the undivided units. In battle, the only consistency is good infantry. The rest really depends on what you use and what you have access to. Then we have Wood Elves. More elves? You know what? I can accept this. The wood elves are exactly what you think. Elves that love nature so much that they are protected at all costs, obviously. Their whole mechanic is healing the great trees, which is done by making friendships, growing awareness, murdering thousands. In battle, they mainly focus on ranged and fight best when going full Vietnam. Now, the more observant among you may have noticed that I skipped over 3 factions that just got their DLC, because I felt like it. Anyway, let's get started with these guys, the Greenskins, or Orcs, who are the happiest people in the whole Warhammer world. They love fighting and very, very little else. Their main campaign mechanic are Waz, which you will hate when fighting against them. Basically, they will designate a target and roll a big, angry green ball towards it. This gives all your armies another army for free, allowing you to fill the battlefield with so much green that I can use it as a green screen. The new legendary lord Gorbad is special. Instead of having 2 brain cells, he has 4. This allows him to think of incredible strategies like just charge harder and just stick together. The available strategies change based on your army composition, meaning that it encourages you to have a varied army. In battle, the orcs have a bit of everything, mainly focusing on infantry though, just like Khorne. Khorne is the god of skulls, honor, and $3.50 DLCs. His mechanics all encourage a playstyle that takes the name of the game as a challenge. Korn got a DLC Lord and a free one, alongside some of the sickest looking units ever. The DLC Lord Skulltaker is famous for bullying French people with his mechanic of the Cloak of Skulls, which with the amount of skulls he adds to it, you'd think it'd be a bit bigger than that. The Cloak of Skulls allows you to upgrade him into an absolute monster. However, the free guy buffs my favorite unit, Arball the Undefeated. Arball the Mostly Undefeated is the bait to get people to buy the Korn DLC. His campaign is about defeating challenging armies around the world and not losing. In battle, Korn says no to 50% of the roster because it's not my honor enough, so it has no ranged or magic. Instead, Korn has cavalry and the best melee infantry, so he is the king of the right-click gameplay. Finally, we have the British 50-year-olds, known as the Ogres, which got a full rework, turning them from torture to total joy. The Ogres' main mechanics are meat and camps. You can get meat by battling, and you spend it to upgrade camps, which are your actual settlements. And now, once you're done fighting in an area, you can move your camps to follow you. All of this allows the new legendary lord Gulgy. I'm pretty sure he can say it. He has a husband. Gulgy is the first mercenary lord, meaning that you don't really need to hold any territory. You can just wander around and beat up whoever you're paid the most to, and not care about politics at all. In battle, the ogres use their thickness to their advantage and are almost entirely focused on monsters, with some gun exceptions. And that was all of the Warhammer 3 factions. In case the game didn't have enough content for you, it also has a very active modding scene with all the things you imagine. What's this? Endgame crisis? Oh no, 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 no. I'm safe. Summon the elect. Thank God the fourth wall is keeping him at bay. Anyway, this game gets a vampire undead pirate riding a T-Rex with miniguns while a nuke goes off out of 10. Now subscribe, like, and fake being a doctor to prescribe watching my content to untold millions.